The Grand Hall of the Galactic Conclave hummed with anticipation. 17 representatives from the most advanced civilizations in known space arranged themselves according to tradition, the eldest species nearest to the ornate central podium, the youngest at the outer ring. Today was momentous. For the first time in 3 centuries, a new member would join their exalted ranks. Ambassador Ixtel of the Morrigan Collective shifted crystalline appendages nervously. The schedule-obsessed Morrigan hated delays, and the humans were now precisely 6 hours and 13 minutes late to their own induction ceremony. Perhaps they encountered difficulty with the translocation protocols, suggested Diplomatic Minister Zhu of the Asheran meritocracy, her feathered crown rippling with diplomatic concern. The Vrex Imperator's color-shifting membranes pulsed from deep blue to irritated crimson. Unlikely. Our technicians confirmed their receipt of coordinates. This delay borders on insult. The 18th seat, carved from genuine earth oak as a gesture of respect, remained conspicuously empty. Its polished surface reflected the soft bioluminescence from the ceiling, highlighting the intricate carvings depicting humanity's brief but remarkable journey to the stars. First Contact Specialist Rethkal of the Kel Protectorate leaned toward his neighbor. I reviewed their historical records. Humans place unusual emphasis on analyzing terms before agreement. Perhaps they're still deliberating. The concept sounded absurd even as he whispered it. The scary representative's tentacles curled in amusement. Impossible. Our predictive models give 99.97% certainty they would accept immediately. No species has ever questioned the honor of conclave membership. A soft tone interrupted their speculations. The grand entrance portal illuminated, indicating an arrival. The assembled representatives straightened, relief evident across 17 distinctly alien physiologies. Finally, the humans had arrived. But when the portal dissolved, only a single figure entered. Not a delegation, not the expected 5 representatives from Earth's United Nations, just one human woman, dressed in simple blue diplomatic attire rather than the ceremonial robes provided for the occasion. She walked with measured steps to the center of the chamber, stopping precisely 10 meters from the empty 18th seat. Protocol dictated she should approach, bow to the elder races, and take her civilization's place among the galactic elite. Instead, she produced a small data crystal, outdated technology by conclave standards, and placed it on the central projection disk. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Conclave, she began, her voice steady and calm. I am Under-Secretary Amara Okafor of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. Earth thanks the Conclave for its generous invitation. 17 representatives leaned forward expectantly. However, she continued, our governing council has reviewed your charter and finds several areas requiring clarification before we can proceed with membership. The silence that followed was absolute. In 10,000 years of conclave history, no such statement had ever been uttered in these chambers. The Vrex Imperator's membranes froze mid-pulse. Ambassador Ixtel's crystalline limbs clinked softly as they trembled in shock. Questions. The ancient Dorleth speaker finally managed, multifaceted eyes blinking rapidly, about the honor that has never been questioned in 10 millennia. Undersecretary Okafor smiled politely. Indeed, the data crystal contains our initial 87 inquiries regarding resource allocation, military obligations, technological exchange protocols, and voting hierarchies. Earth respectfully requests detailed responses before further consideration of membership. She bowed, not the deep subservient bow expected from new members, but the short respectful nod between equals, and turned to leave. When? The Scatheri representative's voice wavered uncharacteristically. When might we expect your final decision? Amara Okafor paused at the portal. When our questions are satisfactorily answered, of course. Earth's seat will remain empty until then. The portal shimmered as she departed, leaving 17 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy staring at an empty chair that suddenly seemed less like an honor and more like a challenge. Dr. Eleanor Chen rubbed her tired eyes as holographic sections of the conclave charter hovered around her like autumn leaves caught in a gentle breeze. The Geneva Analysis Center hummed with activity despite the late hour, the dedicated team of Earth's brightest minds working through their third consecutive night. "There it is again," she muttered, highlighting a seemingly innocuous clause with a flick of her finger. The text glowed amber against the blue background. Section 47.3, Resource Allocation and Contributory Expectations. Her team of legal experts and game theorists crowded around as she expanded the section. "Look at this phrasing. Proportional contribution of strategic materials as determined by the Elder Assessment Committee. When you cross-reference with the historical appendices." She pulled another hologram closer, this one showing resource transfers from the most recent conclave inductee, the Tellurian Republic. Their titanium reserves were depleted by 83% within the first decade of membership, finished Dr. Abrams, a resource economist. "And they're still recovering 50 years later." Eleanor nodded grimly. "This single paragraph could drain Earth's critical mineral resources before we even understand what we've agreed to." Across the complex, Major General Thomas Okonkwo stood surrounded by tactical displays showing centuries of conclave military engagements. His team of strategists and military historians tracked patterns that, remarkably, no alien race had apparently bothered to analyze systematically. "They never adapt," said Major Park, pointing to a simulation of conclave battle formations against a rebellious system from 3 centuries ago. "The same approach regardless of terrain, technology, or opposition tactics." Okonkwo nodded. "Their military protocols are extraordinarily rigid. Section 129 would require Earth Defense Forces to follow conclave tactical doctrine without deviation." He gestured to another display showing Earth military history. "Our entire evolutionary advantage is adaptation under pressure. We'd be sacrificing our greatest strength." In the diplomatic wing, Undersecretary Okafor reviewed the consolidated findings before transmission to the conclave. What had begun as 87 questions had expanded to a thorough 94-page document, requesting clarification on terms that no species had ever thought to challenge. "How are they responding so far?" she asked her assistant. "Confusion, mostly," he replied, scrolling through incoming transmissions. The Asheran representative asked if our translation matrix was malfunctioning. "The Kel Protectorate seems genuinely interested in our concerns. The Vrex," he hesitated, "are suggesting we lack the intellect to appreciate the honor being offered." Amara smiled. "Forward Dr. Chen's analysis of the resource allocation algorithms to the Kel. They've always been resource poor. They might see the pattern we've identified." Meanwhile, across 17 worlds, conclave representatives struggled to comprehend humanity's response. No species had ever dissected their sacred charter with such precision, identifying ambiguities and implications buried beneath millennia of tradition. On Skthar Prime, the High Analytical Collective convened an emergency session. Their predictive models, perfect for 12,000 years, suddenly showed disturbing anomalies when projecting human behavior. "They question everything," whispered Elder Analyst Moore, tentacles twitching with agitation. "Every assumption, every tradition, every word." "Perhaps," suggested a junior analyst, "that is why their technological advancement outpaced all projections despite their late arrival to interstellar travel." In the private chambers of the Vrex Imperator, a secure communication arrived from their intelligence division. Human diplomatic vessels were departing Earth, not toward the conclave capital as expected, but to individual member worlds. The Tellurian exchange program had launched, inviting alien scholars to Earth, while human diplomats traveled outward, bypassing official conclave protocols entirely. For the first time in 10 millennia, the conclave faced something entirely unexpected. A species that said why before saying yes. Impossible. The Sktheri ambassador slammed his primary tentacle against the conference table, sending ripples through the sensitive liquid surface. The other appendages coiled and uncoiled in agitation as he glared at the holographic projection displaying yet another diplomatic message from Earth. Our predictive models are perfect. Humans should have accepted by now. His voice sacs pulsated with frustration. It has been 37 standard cycles. Senior analyst Vex Moore bowed apologetically, her delicate sensory filaments trembling. The humans have sent additional inquiries. Eminence. This brings their total to 143 distinct questions about the Charter. Each human question was more insightful than the last, exposing assumptions buried so deep in the Conclave's foundation that most members had forgotten they were assumptions at all. The latest batch focused on knowledge-sharing protocols that, when carefully analyzed, preserved technological advantages for founding species while appearing to offer full exchange. Across the galaxy, junior members of the Conclave began secretly studying Earth's questions. The Tellurian diplomatic vessels had completed their first round of visits, leaving behind not demands or ultimatums, but questions and subtle invitations to compare notes. On Kel Shera, the homeworld of the Kel Protectorate, Science Director Mesh Al reviewed the resource allocation data provided by human economists. The patterns were undeniable once highlighted. For centuries, the Kel had contributed critical radiation-resistant minerals at rates that far outpaced what they received in exchange. "Have we been blind?" he whispered to his mate, First Defender Keltaris. "Perhaps merely trusting," she replied, her scaled fingers tracing the elegant human analysis. "These Earth beings see patterns where we saw only tradition." When the official deadline for Earth's acceptance arrived, the Conclave's Grand Chamber was prepared for a full ceremonial induction. The empty 18th seat had been polished once more, with witnessing delegations from 42 non-member systems present for the historic occasion. Instead of a human delegation, a quantum-secured transmission arrived. The Conclave Elder reluctantly authorized its projection before the assembly. Undersecretary Okafor appeared, her expression respectful but resolute. Behind her stood representatives from every Earth nation, a unified front. "Honored members of the Galactic Conclave," she began, "Earth has completed its preliminary analysis of your charter and governing protocols. While we value the opportunity for galactic cooperation, we cannot in good conscience accept the current terms of membership." A shocked murmur rippled through the chamber. Even the visiting delegation stirred in astonishment. "Instead," continued Okafor, "we respectfully submit a counter-proposal, a revised charter promoting genuine equality among civilizations regardless of their age or technological development stage." The transmission shifted to display a comprehensive document, Earth's Alternative Vision for Galactic Cooperation. Key sections highlighted equal voting rights, transparent resource exchange, optional military participation, and open technological collaboration. As the transmission ended, silence engulfed the chamber. Then something unprecedented occurred. The representative from Merasi, a relatively recent conclave member, stood. "I move that we examine the human proposal in detail," she announced, defying 3,000 years of protocol where only elder species could initiate charter discussions. The Vrex Imperator's membranes darkened to deep purple with outrage. "This is sacrilege. The charter is perfect as written by the founders." But the damage was done. As delegates departed the failed ceremony, hushed conversations filled the corridors. The humans had accomplished something revolutionary without firing a single shot or even taking their seat. They had introduced doubt into a system built on unquestioning acceptance. That evening, diplomatic requests from 7 conclave members arrived at Earth's embassies, all asking variations of the same question. "Tell us more about your vision for equality." The 18th seat remained empty, but its significance had transformed from embarrassment to symbol, a silent challenge to 10,000 years of comfortable inequality. "They call it Terra's Gambit in the outer systems now," reported Nyrasi observer Kedtur Council, her luminous eyes reflecting the holographic display of expanding human diplomatic connections. The circular chamber of the Nyresi High Council filled with the sweet scent of concern, a pheromone signal that had guided their deliberations for millennia. Elder Counselor Veth leaned forward, silver-streaked tendrils swaying gently. "Explain this, Gambit," she requested. Observer Ket displayed a three-dimensional map of diplomatic exchanges across conclave space. Golden lines represented traditional conclave communication channels, hierarchical, flowing primarily from elder races outward. Blue lines showed new connections, primarily originating from Earth, creating a web that bypassed the traditional structure entirely. The humans never reject dialogue. They never make demands. They ask questions that illuminate inequalities so clearly that they cannot be unseen once noticed, Chet explained. Then they offer alternatives based on mutual benefit. The Nerasi agricultural minister's tendrils curled with interest. The nitrogen fixation technique they shared last cycle increased our yields by 28%. They asked for nothing in return except to study our atmospheric composition. That is their pattern, confirmed Ket. Earth builds relationships based on genuine exchange, rather than obligation or tradition. Across the galaxy, similar conversations occurred as Earth's diplomatic approach proved devastatingly effective. Never aggressive, always reasonable, yet systematically dismantling millennia of conclave control mechanisms. On the conclave capital world, an emergency session convened for the third time in a month. The traditional horseshoe arrangement now featured subtle but telling changes. Several mid-tier members had shifted their seating positions slightly, creating distance from the elder species. The humans must be compelled to accept our terms or face isolation, insisted the Vrex Imperator, membranes pulsing with aggravation. Their continued defiance undermines the very foundation of galactic stability. Ambassador Ixtel's crystalline appendages clicked nervously. Respectfully, Imperator, isolation may prove difficult. The humans have established 23 bilateral trade agreements, 17 cultural exchange programs, and 8 collaborative research initiatives, all outside conclave frameworks. More concerning, added the Scatheri representative, our latest models suggest an 82% probability that the Kel Protectorate will formally endorse the human counterproposal within 15 cycles. The Dorleth speaker's multifaceted eyes blinked in alarmed patterns. The Kel control critical passage through the coreward expanse. Their defection would be problematic. At the designated time for Earth's address, the chamber's central projection displayed not the expected human diplomatic team, but a recorded message from the UN Secretary-General. The distinguished woman spoke directly, and without the elaborate honorifics customary in conclave communications. Distinguished representatives, Earth remains open to joining a truly cooperative galactic community. Our diplomats stand ready to discuss our proposed amendments at your convenience. We seek partnership, not division, but partnership must be founded on equality. As the message ended, the Asheran representative leaned toward her Tellurian neighbor. "I've reviewed their history," she whispered. "Humans fought 17 planetary wars among themselves before achieving unity. Perhaps they recognize imbalanced power structures because they've experienced the consequences. Perhaps," the Tellurian replied thoughtfully, feathers rippling. "We've been measuring advancement incorrectly all along, mistaking age for wisdom and tradition for truth." In Earth's Geneva Diplomatic Center, Undersecretary Okafor reviewed reports from human embassies across conclave space. The strategy was working precisely as theorized. No threats, no demands, just persistent questions and reasonable alternatives. Dr. Chen entered with fresh analysis. The conclave is fragmenting along exactly the fault lines we identified. The elder races cannot adapt quickly enough to counter our approach. Okafor smiled. They keep expecting us to play by rules designed to ensure we lose. They never considered we might simply propose a different game entirely. The 18th seat remained empty, but its shadow now stretched across the entire galaxy. Admiral Vexcor of the Vrex Dominion studied the holographic display of Earth's solar system, his membrane ridges pulsing with dark purpose. Around him, the elite infiltration team prepared for deployment, checking adaptive camouflage systems designed to mimic human appearance down to thermal signatures. "Your objectives are clear," the Admiral intoned, highlighting key Earth infrastructure with a gesture. "Destabilize their unity, disrupt their communications, and demonstrate their vulnerability. Once the humans understand their true place in the galactic hierarchy, they will accept our terms." The team commander bowed. "The operation begins in 6 cycles. Admiral, our intelligence suggests their defensive systems are primitive compared to Conclave standards. Do not underestimate them," warned a voice from the chamber entrance. All heads turned as Science Director Molthran entered, her membranes a troubled gray. "My analysis of human military history suggests they possess unconventional approaches to warfare." "Primitive approaches," corrected the Admiral dismissively. "Different approaches," Molthran insisted. "They have faced extinction-level threats from within their own species repeatedly. Their military doctrine evolved against opponents who think as they do, unpredictably." The Admiral waved away her concerns. "They are divided by nations, cultures, languages. A few precision strikes will fracture their fragile unity." 3 days later, the first Vrex teams arrived silently outside major Earth cities, expecting to find Nave defenders. What they discovered instead was the perplexing reality of human military thinking. In Geneva, Major General Okonkwo received the alert from the Jupiter defense platform with remarkable calm. "So they finally moved beyond diplomacy," he noted, activating the global defense network with a voice command. "Implement Protocol Chimera." Across Earth, defense systems activated not in centralized patterns that could be targeted, but in seemingly random configurations that made no strategic sense to the Vrex observers. Command structures shifted hourly. Communication frequencies changed in patterns that appeared chaotic, but somehow remained perfectly synchronized. The Vrex commander watching Jakarta's defense grid frowned at readings that contradicted all standard doctrine. His confusion deepened when he intercepted a message from human forces that simply read, "Remember Thermopylae. Adapt accordingly." When the infiltration team targeting Earth's primary quantum communication hub in Australia finally breached the outer perimeter, they found not the expected resistance but an empty facility. The equipment had been removed hours before they arrived. Somehow the humans had anticipated not just the attack, but its precise target. Meanwhile, the attempted sabotage of Earth's Jupiter orbital platforms backfired spectacularly. Human engineers not only repaired the damage within hours, but improved the original designs, implementing countermeasures specifically tailored to Vrex technology. On the conclave capital, the Nairisi representative approached the Asheran delegation with troubling news. "Our intelligence networks have detected unauthorized Vrex military operations in Earth's system," she whispered, antennae quivering with concern. "The conclave did not authorize this," the Asheran responded, feathers bristling with alarm. "This violates our most fundamental protocols." "Precisely," the Nairisi agreed. "And the humans know exactly who was responsible. They'd been gathering evidence since the first incursion." In the private chambers of the Vrex High Command, Admiral Vexcor received increasingly desperate reports. Each operation failed more thoroughly than the last. Human counterintelligence had not only detected their teams, but seemed to anticipate their every move with uncanny precision. The final report arrived with a disturbing addition, a personal message from Major General Okonkwo. "We appreciate the opportunity to test our defensive systems against conclave technology. Your cooperation in this exercise has been invaluable. Perhaps next time, simply ask for a joint training mission." The Admiral's membranes blanched to pale yellow, the Vrex expression of horror. The humans hadn't just defeated their operations, they'd treated them as a learning experience. Earth's reserved seat now symbolized not just absence but accusation, evidence of a species that could not be controlled through conventional means. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Conclave fell into stunned silence as the Kel representative, First Diplomat Shenrock, rose from his seat. His azure scales gleamed under the ceremonial lights, ancestral honor marks tracing luminous patterns across his crest. "The Kel Protectorate hereby announces our formal withdrawal from the Galactic Conclave," he declared, voice resonating with calm certainty. We have chosen to pursue partnership with Terra and their emerging coalition of independent worlds. The pronouncement sent immediate shockwaves through the assembly. The Kel, while not among the oldest conclave members, commanded significant respect for their principled diplomacy and strategic position controlling key transit routes through the coreward expanse. The elder Dorleth speaker's voice cracked with strain. This is unprecedented. No civilization has withdrawn from the conclave in 7,000 cycles. Perhaps that is precisely the problem, Shenrock replied, gathering his ceremonial robes. Structures that never change eventually become prisons rather than shelters. As he turned to leave, the Vrex Imperator's membranes flashed warning colors. The consequences will be severe. Your access to conclave technology, trade routes, and protection will cease immediately. Shenrock paused at the chamber entrance. We understand. We have already established alternative arrangements. With quiet dignity, he departed, leaving his seat conspicuously vacant beside Earth's already empty chair. Within days, the Nairasi Collective announced their withdrawal. 3 more civilizations followed within a month. Each departure announcement referenced similar principles of equality, mutual benefit, and genuine cooperation. Language directly echoing Earth's original counterproposal. In Geneva's newly constructed diplomatic nexus, human diplomatic teams worked around the clock, coordinating with their new allies. Under Secretary Okafor, now elevated to Secretary of Interstellar Relations, reviewed progress reports with Ambassador Chen, formerly Dr. Chen. The Kel integration is proceeding smoothly, Chen noted, scrolling through data. Their mineral reclamation technology pairs remarkably well with our atmospheric processing systems. Both worlds are seeing environmental improvements beyond projections. Okafor nodded approvingly. And the Nairasi Cultural Exchange Program. Oversubscribed 3 times over, Chen smiled. Their artistic collectives are collaborating with human musicians to create entirely new harmonic structures. Apparently, the combination of their light-based compositions and our sound-based music creates something neither species could develop alone. An alert chimed softly. Admiral Okonkwo entered the conference room, his expression serious but satisfied. The conclave has just announced economic sanctions against Earth and all withdrawn members, he reported. They're attempting to isolate our coalition from remaining conclave markets. Rather than concern, Okafor displayed quiet confidence. Activate the parallel trade network. It's time to implement Phase 3. Within hours, ships from Earth, Kelshera, Nairasi, and 4 other allied worlds departed for predetermined coordinates. The vessels carried comprehensive trade inventories and diplomatic representatives, empowered to negotiate directly with independent systems, bypassing conclave-controlled transit hubs entirely. On 37 worlds beyond conclave influence, markets eagerly awaited these new trading partners. Earth's intelligence networks had spent months identifying civilizations chafing under restrictive conclave trade policies. On the Vrex homeworld, economic advisors delivered troubling projections to the Imperial Council. The Vrex Dominion had built its economy on controlling access to conclave markets, charging substantial fees to facilitate trade between senior and junior members. With direct trade routes now established between former members and independent systems, their economic leverage was evaporating. The humans have constructed an alternative galactic economy in mere months, the chief economic advisor reported, membranes pale with stress. They're offering terms that undercut our rates by 60% while providing greater transparency. In the conclave chamber, the 18th seat, Earth's unoccupied chair, had been symbolically draped in black cloth, signifying rejection. Beside it now stood 4 more empty seats, similarly draped. The remaining representatives eyed these vacant positions with growing unease, wondering whose chair would be next. The balance of power shifted not through conquest but connection, Earth's true expertise. The empty seats now looked less like an insult and more like an escape route that others were beginning to take. The unprecedented broadcast reached every corner of settled space, On millions of worlds, beings of countless forms gathered around communication devices to witness something never before seen in the galaxy's history, the first ever open forum between multiple galactic civilizations. The Geneva Grand Forum featured no raised days for elder species, no hierarchical seating arrangements, no ancient protocols determining who could speak and when. Representatives from Earth, the Kel Protectorate, Nerasi Collective, and 6 other former conclave members sat in a perfect circle, with additional spaces for observers from 32 independent systems. Secretary Okafor opened the proceedings with characteristic directness. Welcome to all beings across the galaxy joining this historic conversation. Today, we speak not as rulers and subjects, not as elders and juniors, but as equals with unique perspectives to share. The human moderator, Dr. Indira Patel, a renowned xenoanthropologist, addressed her first question to the assembly. What do your people truly need? What can we create together that we cannot build alone? For the first time in recorded galactic history, representatives spoke openly about their civilization's challenges, hopes, and unique capabilities, without the filtering layers of conclave protocols that had traditionally determined which needs deserved attention. First diplomat Shen Rock of the Keld described his people's struggle with radiation-heavy worlds. The Nirasi representative spoke of their atmospheric degradation challenges. Earth's ambassador Chen acknowledged humanity's ongoing efforts to reverse climate damage from their industrial age. Then something remarkable happened. Instead of platitudes or vague promises, representatives began offering specific collaborative solutions. The Kel radiation mitigation technology could be adapted for Nirasi atmospheric control, suggested a human scientist. Earth's bioremediation techniques could accelerate Kel Sharan recovery by approximately 67%, added a Nirasi ecological expert. Ideas flowed freely, unrestrained by traditional requirements to channel all cooperation through hierarchical conclave structures. Technologies that had remained siloed within individual civilizations for millennia were suddenly being combined, adapted, and enhanced. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds watched as, for the first time, galactic civilizations spoke honestly about their fears, aspirations, and unique perspectives. What had started as a diplomatic broadcast transformed into something more, a genuine conversation about a shared future. On the conclave capital, 3 former founders watched the proceedings in a private chamber, their expressions unreadable to most species, but conveying clear concern to those familiar with their physiologies. They have achieved in half a cycle what we failed to accomplish in 10,000, observed the eldest Dorlith, multifaceted eyes reflecting the broadcast. True cooperation. It cannot last, insisted the Vrex elder, membranes pulsing with denial. Without proper hierarchies, without tradition, they will descend into chaos. The third founder, a Sktheri prime thinker, curled contemplative tentacles. Perhaps our error was in believing that order requires control. The humans somehow recognize what we fail to see, that genuine advancement comes not from restriction, but from connection. As the forum continued, technological breakthroughs emerged in real time. The stagnant technologies of the conclave, which had seen only incremental improvements for millennia, began advancing at unprecedented rates through genuine collaboration. A Kel scientist combined Earth's quantum communication principles with Nirasi photonic systems, creating a prototype for instantaneous communication across previously impossible distances. A human Tellurian team proposed a new approach to energy production that would eliminate resource competition entirely. In orbit above Geneva, representatives from 17 independent systems who had come merely to observe now requested formal participation in the emerging alliance. Their observers had transmitted one consistent message home. This is different. This is real. On the broadcast, Secretary Okafor addressed the questions flowing in from across the galaxy. We call this new alliance the Galactic Accord. Its founding principle is simple. Every civilization has value. Every perspective offers insight, and true progress requires us all. The door remains open to any who wish to join us as equals. Across the galaxy, beings of all forms contemplated an idea both revolutionary and obvious. Perhaps the stars belong to everyone equally. After all, 5 years after rejecting the conclave invitation, Earth welcomed representatives from 26 civilizations to the inaugural summit of the Galactic Accord in Geneva. The new assembly chamber held no special seats, no elevated platforms, only a circular arrangement where each species participated as equals. The Grand Hall buzzed with dozens of languages, translation matrices seamlessly converting concepts across vastly different mental frameworks. Holographic displays showed real-time updates of collaborative projects spanning hundreds of worlds. Where the conclave had maintained stability through control, the Accord fostered progress through connection. A momentary hush fell over the assembly as an unexpected delegation arrived. The Vrex representatives entered cautiously, their once imperious membrane displays now showing subdued patterns indicating formal diplomatic humility. Lead diplomat Vexlor approached the central podium where Secretary Okafor stood. The Vrex Dominion formally requests consideration for membership in the Galactic Accord, he announced, voice modulation carefully calibrated to convey respect rather than the traditional Vrex superiority tones. A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. The Vrex had been the most vehement opponents of Earth's approach, the most dedicated to preserving the old hierarchies. Secretary Okafor smiled with genuine warmth. The Accord welcomes your request, lead diplomat. As with all applicants, you will be provided complete access to our charter, invited to ask any questions, and given time to understand fully what membership entails. We have already reviewed your charter extensively, the Vrex diplomat replied. Its clarity is refreshing. We have prepared responses to the standard questionnaire regarding resource sharing, technological exchange, and conflict resolution. Ambassador Chen approached, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting that had become standard Accord protocol. Your insights will be valuable, lead diplomat. The Vrex perspective spans 12,000 years of galactic history. Experience the Accord would benefit from greatly. What the assembled representatives witnessed was something few would have predicted. Humans holding no grudges once accountability was accepted. The species that the Vrex had once attempted to undermine now offered them a path forward as equals. Later that evening, as celebration lights illuminated Geneva's night sky, Secretary Okafor stood with representatives from the original allies on a balcony overlooking Lake Geneva. Did you anticipate this outcome when you first rejected the conclave invitation? Asked First Diplomat Shen Rock of the Kel, scales shimmering in the gentle light. Okafor smiled. Not specifically. We simply recognized a system that contradicted our fundamental values and proposed an alternative. Your species has accomplished in 5 years what others never attempted in 10,000, observed the Nyresi speaker, luminous antennae swaying gently. The question that intrigues many of us is, how? Dr. Patel, who had joined the diplomatic corps after moderating the historic First Forum, offered her perspective. I believe our secret wasn't technological or even strategic. It was perspective, the ability to see systems for what they could become rather than accepting what they were. As Earth's Secretary General addressed the Assembly the following day, the truth crystallized for beings across 26 civilizations. Humanity's superpower was never advanced weapons, resources, or even intellect. It was their relentless questioning of why things were the way they were, and their imagination to envision how they could be better. On the former conclave capital, the 18th seat, once reserved for Earth, had been permanently removed. Its absence now a celebrated reminder that progress often begins when someone brave enough asks, is there a better way? The circle of equal seats in the Geneva chamber stood as the answer to that question. The galaxy no longer trembled in confusion at Earth's empty seat, but stood transformed by the question it represented. In the end, humanity had taught the stars a lesson as old as their own history, but new to the wider galaxy. That true cooperation required not deference to authority, but genuine equality of voice, that lasting unity came not from control but from respect, and that the most powerful force in the universe was not ancient tradition, but the simple courage to imagine something better.